Hi, it's another exciting day, wonderful day. Karibuni sana. Good morning, Kenya Diaspora Media. Today, Esther is here on the Spices of Life, Esther from Leicester. And today we'll be looking again on well-being. And today we are going to look at the purpose of life. But before we get there, yes, there is something very good I would like you and I not to forget. So karibu sana from wherever you're listening from. And as you tune in, let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Let me know where you're tuning in from. Karibu sana. Dokareke galiganero. Never let me forget the journey that I've walked through this life. And that's my prayer this morning. We pray that we'll never forget how far we've traveled. It doesn't matter how long we will live in this life, but let's not forget, as long as we are breathing this oxygen, let's not forget what God has done for us. Here is a song that just is reminding us exactly that. Karibu sana.
Shuke na wedo mukinya niru utumaga delire ye wikaraga denyi hetie guguthiga tamakeria wedo waku ni uhotaga dukareke gariganiro niwe goya wananyonia inde muhuro yo wariwa dukareke gariganiro niwe goya wananyonia inde muhuro yo wariwa. Amone madirete ariagena omakoja ede wendo wakuga yo turaga umenyereire nigwadikana niro ne megwe miru ya ngoma dokareke gariganiro ndehoyo wananyonia ede muro yo dokareke gariganiro ndehoyo wananyonia ede muro yo waliwa. Menya kuria nyumite gutiro kia hotire kuruta ngoro eno yakwa hatakaine ya mathina tigane we waikireire dokareke gariganiro niwe goya wananyonia inde muhuro yo dokareke gariganiro niwe goya wananyonia inde muhuro yo wariwa. Chigane utore udathimite ndathimira nyumba yakwa wira wa moko makwa maundu makwa mothe ndukareke gaconoka ndukareke gariganiro niwe goya wananyonia inde muhuro yo wariwa ndukareke gariganiro niwe goya wananyonia inde muhuro yo wariwa.
Hey, what a wonderful song. It's another beautiful day. Good morning, Kenya Diaspora Media family from wherever you're tuning in. My name is Esther from Leicester. And this is another exciting day. I am your host, Esther Nduta, or Esther from Leicester. Karibuni sana. Let me know where you're tuning in from, and karibisha, welcome people in so that we can be able to talk a little bit about what is the purpose of life. That's what I'm looking at today. Yes, and I am depending on you to bring a few questions. I don't know whether you know what is the purpose of your life. I don't know whether you know what is the general purpose of life. So this morning, I would like you to be able to talk to me and tell me whether you know the purpose of life and the purpose of your life, you personally, whether you know that. So karibu sana Susan Wanjiku, welcome. Good morning from Mama Land. That's what you're saying. So my Mama Land, the land Kenya, that's our Mama Land. And we are waiting for the presidents and the other leaders in the cabinets, the parliament to be announced later. So karibuni sana. Good morning from Mama Land. Karibu sana Marie Wright, welcome, you're watching. Karibu sana Peter Mbuthia, karibu sana, you're watching and you've joined in. Karibu sana Leonard Gige Jengwa, karibu sana Carol Kehoi. Yes, I think that's the name. I hope I pronounced it correctly. So karibuni sana for those who are joining in. Karibu is the word for welcome in Swahili. Karibu, 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 karibu. So today I'm going to read with you one of the books in the Bible that normally, maybe, I don't know, some people like reading it, some people may not like reading it, but I'm going to use that book to be able to broadcast today. And hopefully you can still be able to see me. I can see my Wi-Fi on the phone is playing up, but hopefully you can still be able to hear me. So please comment below here on the comments below and let me know where you're tuning in from, as I find out from my phone whether it's streaming or not streaming, and hopefully we are able to stream live. Otherwise, I'll be looking also on this other side to see whether it's streaming. Otherwise, karibu sana, and here is Jeremy Damaris. We will play this song as we sort out what the networks are doing. Karibu sana, karibu.
Shuke na wedo mukinya niru utumaga delire ye gukaraga denyi hetie kugothiga tamakeria wedo waku ni uhotaga ukareke gariga niro niwegoya wana nyonia emuro yo waliwa ukareke gariga niro niwegoya wana nyonia emuro yo waliwa. Amone madirete ariagena omakoja ede wendo wakuga yoturaga umenyereire nigwadikana niro ne megwe miru ya ngoma yokareke gariga niro demoyo ananyonia ede muro yo yokareke gariga niro demoyo ananyonia.
Thank you so much, Jeremy Damaris. Thank you, Dukanareke Gadi Ganero. That is my mother tongue, our mother tongue. Okay, Kenyan speaks Swahili, English, Kikuyu, and many other languages. And that is Kikuyu language saying, never let me forget all the good that you have done in my life. Never let me forget. And that's to do with God not letting us forget. I can see some comments are coming through, and in as much as my phone was saying no, I can see Masi Gabriel has joined us. Karibu sana, and you're tuning in from Gatondo South. Karibu Nancy Mongai, karibu sana for joining in. Karibuni sana. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'll keep on giving a shout out to those people who are engaged with us, and also please share, because they do say sharing is caring, and as long as what you're sharing is something that can be helpful to one another. So karibuni sana. Today I want to have a look at a topic that is really one of those topics that people sometimes, it keeps on confusing sometimes, and sometimes when people are thinking about it, sometimes it's clear, sometimes it's not clear. So I want us to be able to look at the book of Ecclesiastes today. I don't know if they've ever read the book of Ecclesiastes, but that's what I'm going to look at, because when we think about the purposes of life, or the purpose of life, or the purpose in life, or personal purpose in life, sometimes we get lost in the details. But I'm going to look at chapter 1. I won't look at the whole book, but I'll look at chapter 1, maybe verse by verse. It may help us to think. One of the things, remember, we said we shouldn't be overthinking. I don't want us to overthink. I just want us to have some clarity. Marie Wright has joined us, and she is the one who had given us some of the notes on not to overthink, how not to overthink, and that program has been run here on the Kenya Diaspora Media. But today I want us to look at the purpose of life, and we are starting from someone who we thought was the wisest person in the world, because he had been given that gift of wisdom, and that man is Solomon. Some people call him the teacher, some people call him the preacher, some people call him Kohelethu. Whichever name you call him, I don't know what you call him. You can chat down here and tell me what you call this wise man, Mr. Solomon. I don't know. When you read his history, you will know whether, or rather you will make conclusions whether he was wise or he wasn't wise. But again, I am not judging him, because if he had received that, or if he received that gift from God, then he was the wisest man that ever lived. Now, there are still wise men and women today. And there are those people who go into research. There are those who do sciences. There are those people who really go deeper and deeper. There are philosophers, countless of them. Not very long ago, I attended a philosophy class for 20 sessions. And one of the 20 sessions, in the first 10, we were looking for what is wisdom and what does a wise person do in different situations. And then the next one was on happiness, in us trying to look for happiness, because most of us are in pursuit of happiness. We want to live a happy life. Maybe that's the purpose that you have. Maybe that's the purpose we have. But again, it's not for me to define what your purpose is. Mine is to open up the thinking, but I don't want us again to overthink, because the same book of Ecclesiastes says if we overthink, we will just be making ourselves sick. It can kill us. And of course it can, because if all you do is think and overthink, I don't want us to overthink it, but I want us at least to wake up our senses, wake up our minds, wake up our conscience, wake up our intuition, and be able to think about, what's the purpose of life? What is the purpose of life? This is Spices of Life, and I talk about Spices of Life because we look at the spiritual aspect of our life. We also look at the physical aspect of our life. We look at the intellect, what we know. We also look at the way we interact with one another, communication, the currency of love, the emotions as well, how life is about, and also the social relations. To me, those are the spices that really make life to be. The spices that we add in our life that make it to be. It's not conclusive. It's not exclusive of that. You can have many other ideas, just like there are countless spices that you can add to your food. Some of the spices are sweet, some of the spices are bitter, some are smelly, some are just there. So whichever spices that you add in your life, Esther has chosen these spices here, of the physical, of the spiritual, of the intellect, of the commercial, of the emotions, and of the social. So if you have any question regarding what is this Spices of Life, are we going to see any food in this particular program? The only food you're going to see is the food for the soul, the food for the soul. And that's what I tend to say, because I and you are soul journers or sojourners in this earth. Soul, I normally say soul journers, because in as much as we eat the physical food, in as much as we interact with one another, we are still seeking the meaning of our life, the meaning of this life in general. You and I cannot deny that truth. We are seeking. I am. If you're not, I am. I ask myself so many questions most of the time. What is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? So purpose and meaning will go hand in hand. I will use those words interchangeably. Now, this guy here, this teacher, this preacher, this Koheredhu guy, this Ecclesiastes and Koheredhu, I have said in Kikuyu Koheredhu. This guy here started the writings in a very strange manner. And for those who normally say we shouldn't be thinking of the Bible otherwise, forgive me, because today I'm looking at this with a critical mind. I'm looking with critique, not to criticize. That's different. I'm not criticizing Solomon. I'm not criticizing the writers of the Bible. I'm not criticizing the people who compiled the Bible, but I'm looking at the words critically. I am critiquing what is written so that I can be able to understand from my point of view, and through understanding from my point of view, I can be able to live day by day with a new hope, I don't want to give up. I want to be able to find this purpose of my life, because after all, I found myself here, so there must be a purpose. And I've taken you through the kitchen, and I've told you many times that each vessel in the kitchen serves a purpose at that specific time. And I believe that's what also a reading like this today, a discussion like this today, it's about discussing, or rather rediscovering what our purposes are. Regardless of how Solomon has started in saying meaningless is meaningless, 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 we want to see whether there is meaning and whether there is purpose, and we can read the Bible critically. We can be able also to do like what the Bereans did in the Bible. When someone has told you something, you go back and research it for yourself. But again, don't overwhelm yourself in researching, because God gives you the revelation. God can give you the revelation that you need to be able to live day by day, the daily bread. He is able to give you the daily bread on that particular day. And when I'm saying the daily bread, I am talking about the daily bread from that first S, the spiritual daily bread, the soul daily bread that can be able to help you to manage your thinking processes and what is in your heart as well. And I've also talked about the kitchen. The kitchen is one of my favorite rooms in my house. I don't know about you. I have asked this question. Only one person answered and said their favorite place in the garden because it's relaxation. But I would still like to know, what's your favorite room in the house? So this particular day, I'm asking again, what's your favorite room in the house? Why? Before I get derailed and distracted from the thought of today, it's because it's in our minds and it is in our hearts that we think about the purpose. It is through these things that we cook up the ideas that we have. It is through the mind and the heart that we are able to give out again what is flowing through our minds. Like me now, I'm talking to you because I'm thinking about the purpose of life and how I can be able to share with you and be able to help one person, to help another person to be able to find out, are they the plate in the kitchen? Are they the cup in the kitchen? Are they the spoon? Are they the saucepan? What is it that they can be able to serve as a purpose in this life? And we cannot be able to serve a purpose in this life if we don't know the general purpose of life. But look at what Ecclesiastes is saying. Look at what he's saying. And these are the words of the teacher. They are not my words. They are not. Or the preacher. The King David's son. That's what they say. They say Solomon was King David's son and who ruled Jerusalem. He said, everything is meaningless. That's how he starts. Everything is meaningless. Really? Really? So I'm wasting my time here talking to you. It is meaningless for me to be talking to you. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Shall I just close the studio and say it is meaningless? Is it meaningless really? I don't know what you think about that statement, but to me, I don't think it's meaningless. And I want, like I say, to critique what is written here in the book of Ecclesiastes. I want to critique it, look it with a critical eye. I don't deny Solomon was very wise, and I don't deny there's so many people who are wise even today. I don't deny that. But to come up with a statement that everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely meaningless. Some versions say vanity, it's vain. Everything is meaningless. Now, this was his conclusion. This was his conclusion. It wasn't the key word. It's not the truth. It's not the truth. I want us to hold on to that. This is not necessarily the truth. It is what King Solomon concluded, that everything is meaningless, and it is everything according to everything that he was able to research. In the same way, today we have researchers. When they do some research, they come up with conclusion that this is what we have found out. And sometimes they put this blanket kind of a statement to mean that that's the truth, because they have found some evidence. They have found some evidence. Remember, I'm using the word some evidence, not all evidence. In this life, we will not be able to cover everything. Only God can cover everything, because he's the one who created everything. For us, we are very limited. Like me now, I'm very limited to how much I can be able to speak to you and bring the reality or the truth that is really operating in my life. That's the much I can be able. The truth I know is the one that will set me free. The truth that I know is the one that will set me free. And the truth that you know is the one that will set you free. So here we go. And when you know that little truth, or we know that much truth that you know, it doesn't mean that you know the whole truth. You don't know the whole truth. I remember a statement is coming through my mind from the Bible when Jesus said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. To me, is the extent to what you know as truth that really sets you free. So I want to contradict this statement and say everything is not meaningless. If it is meaningless, I'm wasting my breath, I'm wasting my energy to talk to you. So, do you think everything is meaningless? Do you think everything is meaningless? Are you coming on my side this day and joining in critiquing this word and say everything is not meaningless? Why? These few minutes I'm wasting, did I say just wasting? These few minutes that Solomon could be saying, I'm wasting with you. I do believe 100% that somebody's well-being will be improved. Once they find out some of the things that I'm going to talk about, they will be improved. So in the past, we've been talking about forgiveness. So is forgiveness meaningless? No, it is meaningful, because when you let go of those things that are holding onto your mind, then you no longer overthink about them, and you don't feel the pain and the hurt that it's causing. I've also spoken about how to heal from woundedness. If you're wounded because of the things that you're holding on to as unforgiveness, or any other thing that could have been done to you, you have done to yourself, any other thing, when you let go, then you start getting healed. Now, is that meaningless? So you see where I'm bringing all these perspectives. So everything you do, is it meaningless? I woke up this morning, I've had breakfast. Is it meaningless? It's not meaningless, because I want to survive. Somewhere else in the very Bible, it says that we eat to live. So I eat the biological food so that I can be able to stay alive biologically. I eat the spiritual food so that I can stay alive in the spiritual person. Now, I know this life will come to an end. If you believe the end is the end, total end, there's no point of you breathing another oxygen. No, there isn't any point. But for me, I believe that there is life after death. Therefore, whether I live to be however old, 100 years old, or another person lives to be 50, it's not the end of it. It's not the end of it. And I believe it's not the end of it, because again, there is a person with a capital P that created this life. We call him the creator. He knows the purpose, and he knows why he would give us a fraction of life on this side of the earth, on this side of the sun, and he will give us another fraction on the other side of the life. Now, I haven't checked how people are commenting here, and hopefully you are helping me in thinking white. I hope so. So good morning, Mala Dasha. Good morning, Agnes Kabuthi from Dubai. Good morning, Grace Ngatia. Good morning, Nyambura Grace. Karibuni sana for those who are joining in. And if the comments hide away, I will be able to reconnect with you hopefully later on, because I don't want to miss out on these comments that are coming through. Otherwise, you and I are helping each other on this program. Karibuni sana. So if I've missed any comments, it's because sometimes they go and hide themselves somewhere here. But karibuni sana. So we are talking about life. Is it meaningless? Is it really meaningless? So you're waking up this morning. Was it meaningless or was it meaningful? Was it Yeah, and I'm looking at the Bible, and I know some people may throw some stones towards me because I'm talking about contradicting what is written. And by the way, this is one of the books even non-believers in God look at it. Atheists read this book of Kohelethu or the preacher or Ecclesiastes. They read it because they come up with this statement, and they also conclude, just like he concluded in one go, that life is meaningless. They read verse 1, and then that verse 1 is also reinforced by verse 2. Everything is meaningless, says the teacher, completely. He just adds that. When you stop at that and you don't look at the wider perspective, you can conclude with Ecclesiastes and say everything is meaningless. And now, once you find that you are finding life to be meaningless, that you're finding there is no purpose in life, that's where some of the bigger problems begin. That's where some of the bigger problems we've been talking about begin, the woundedness. So because you can sit down there and start rethinking and overthinking about it, you become hurt, you become like, why? What's the point? And then sometimes you stop doing what you were doing, you stop working hard, you stop pursuing the things that were initially or in the first place very rewarding. So you stop because you become depressed. When you don't find the purpose in life, you become depressed. So you don't find the purpose of waking up, you don't find the purpose of reaching out to other people, you don't find the purpose of eating, you don't find the purpose in anything, and then you go downhill. You start going downhill instead of growing in confidence and growing in wisdom. We have talked about self-esteem and how to grow that self-esteem and confidence. So you need to have a basis on where you can grow this self-esteem. One of the places I always say is because I have not created myself. There is someone, like I said, with a capital S, someone, a person, a creator who created me, and therefore they must have given me a purpose in life. And out of that purpose, I can be able to build the self-esteem. And I said, not prideful, not going over and thinking you can solve I know some people have said they are gods. I am. So they take it to be meaning I am, they are the gods. You cannot be a god like God. Yes, you can be a god with a small g, in the terms that you are like God because you've been created in the image of God, but you cannot be able to answer the questions of life purpose in full. You cannot be able to create as God created. When you look at the world, you and you and you and me, we are all different. We are very unique. So in as much as people may call themselves gods, they are not able to be as creative as God was. Imagine speaking things into reality. We are not able to really do the miraculous as God. We are limited. We must admit that we are limited. And you and I know we are limited. For example, when we are praying for our loved ones, when they don't get healed, why don't we just pull out that disease from them? Why don't we have the cure for cancer? Those people who call themselves gods, why don't they be able, why are they not solving the problem of suffering in this life? Why are they not being able to problem solve every problem we have? What I'm trying to say, there is meaning, there is a purpose for each one of us, but we are limited in the way we do things. And until we honor the person that has the full power, then we are not able to progress in life the way we would like to progress. So everything is not meaningless. You can make conclusion that it is meaningless because that's your research. That's how far you have found the truth. And that's how far you can go with your truth. And then you conclude, you make your own. Even today, there's some people who will make conclusions. They will decide either Esther was talking nonsense or Esther was talking something useful. It's up to you. The conclusion you make today will either move you one step further or it will retract you one step behind. And of course, again, that will have been your meaning that you have concluded, and the conclusions will either make you make good choices or bad choices. But again, let's find out how we can be able to find the purpose of life, and also by looking at this book critically to be able to see whether everything is meaningful or meaningless. So, verse number 3, it says, what do people get for all their hard work under the sun? Now, you work hard and I work hard. I am here working hard. Even this particular moment, I'm here. I'm encouraging myself to remain in the routine. What's the point? What's the point of me coming here to talk to you? The point is, we have a life. We breathe in, we breathe out. And as long as we are breathing in and breathing out, we need to be able to support this life. Today, we need to be able to support this life. I've said many times, this is the present, this is the gift that we've been given today. This very moment that I am with you, this very moment, because you don't know what will happen in the next moment. Some friends have died, some relatives have died, some people are dying this very particular moment. But for this very moment that I'm talking to you, we are supporting one another. We are supporting one another in the sense that we can be able to talk to one another. We can be able to reason together. We can be able to talk, just reason out and be able to come up with ways that we can help our minds, our well-being, our hearts. We can be able to do that. And at the same time, God has not cut out the oxygen. So there is a reason why he's not cut out our oxygen, or our system has not stopped thinking, or our system has not stopped breathing. There is a purpose. And therefore, I am not wasting my breath. I'm bringing some support. If you are willing to receive some support from Esther, I want to tell you, rejoice with Esther. Be happy with Esther this morning. Yes, there is a reason why I want my mind to be calm. There's a reason why I want good things to come out of my mind. Out of my heart. I want good things to come out of my mouth. Why? When you smile, when you feel the joy, then you get the strength from that joy and you're able to live day by day. If you feel sad, then it drains your every energy in your body and you're not able to survive comfortably this day. Remember, yes, we don't know the full picture. We don't know the full purpose. We don't know yet. But one of the things I hear, the chief purpose, the main purpose is to revere God and to worship God. This very man will say at some point in this book of Ecclesiastes, the very guy who starts with everything is meaningless, at some point he mentions that is the chief purpose of man, to be able to revere God, to worship God. You know, when you come to the end of yourself, when you don't know where else to go, you need to go to this God, the very God who created you, and be able to honor him and be able to respect him and be able to worship him. Once you do that, I think life becomes easier. Not I think, I know, because I have sought God in my life and life has become so much easier in my seeking of God and in finding that his ways are better than my ways. His ways are higher than my ways. So, Grace Ngatia, asante sana for joining in, and Agnes Kabuthi, asante sana for joining in from Dubai. Maladasha, thank you so much. You're saying good morning too. And Lilian Wango, you're saying good morning. Esther and Rose Ngure, you have joined in and you're saying physical, tangible stuff has an end, but not the spiritual being. We should purpose our life on the kingdom, on the spiritual matters and eternity. You've touched the right topic, Rose Ngure. You have. So when you read the book of Ecclesiastes, you hear under the sun. Under the sun. That statement is repeated so many times. He's saying under the sun. So in this verse 3, we see, what do people get from all their hard work under the sun? Under the sun is the physical life that we live in. We are limited when it comes to physical life. Like I've said, we have so many limitations. So in the physical life, we may be able to see things as meaningless. We may be able to see like we've come to the end of the rope. I think that's what they normally say. It's a statement that people say. We may be able to see as if this hard work we are doing is meaningless. You may be sitting there and thinking, oh, I'm working so hard today. I don't know whether people's hearts and minds are being changed. I don't know whether I'm being productive and all that. It doesn't matter. When you've been given that work to do, do it. If God has put that word in your mouth, do it. If there is work that God has given you to do, do it. If you feel like there's something you need to tell the nations, tell them. Because God will give you the strength to do that. And spiritual things, like Rose Ngure has said, they don't come to an end. Because you are a spirit being in as much as you're a physical being. The physical being will end into ashes. Yes, we will go back into the ground where we came from. But the breath that was breathed in us is the one that will take us from where it came from. It will take us back where it came from. That's what I mean. So verse 3 says, what do people get from all their hard work under the sun? So what am I getting from this hard work I'm doing? I'm getting the joy that you are talking to me. I'm getting the joy that I'm connecting to people. I'm getting the joy that I can love people. I'm getting the joy that you can love me as well. I'm getting the joy that I can spread the word of truth. I can spread the joy to say to you that all things are meaningful, but not from the point of view of a mankind, not from the point of view of me and you, because we are limited, but from the point of view of God. He didn't just create the world for the sake of creating the world and then it becomes meaningless. I don't think so. That would have been meaningless of meaningless. Yes, but God created us with a purpose. He created us with a purpose. I believe that with all my heart, with everything that I am. I believe that. Like I say, the chief purpose, I believe one of the chief purposes, the main purposes, is for us to be able to worship God. This preacher says, generations come and generations go, but the earth never changes. Now, that very statement, generations come, generations go. Yes, they do. But if these generations didn't come and go, I wouldn't be here, you wouldn't be there. So it hasn't remained the same. No, it's not the same. The earth right now, we are talking about global warming. It hasn't remained the same. Yes, I was looking at the vegetation yesterday and it was so brown because the sun has been so hot. Those green grass, they grow, they die, they grow. There's life and death going on, right? There are those ones that die and there are those ones that are born. Okay, the germination, the vegetation, there are those ones that grow. That blade of grass that has grown today is not the same blade of grass that was there yesterday. So I don't believe in that generations come and go and the earth remains the same. No, the earth changes. Only God is the one who doesn't change. The word of God doesn't change. God himself, in his power and in his wisdom, he doesn't change. He's the one who looks at these things as they change. Esther is here for a period of time. She will be gone. Yes, I will have made my history, whether it's remembered or not remembered. I will have marked my history. My generation, my children, the children of my children will be there because Esther was in one of the times in this life. And the same God who upheld Esther is the same God who will uphold them until the time that God will decide, now let's change the plan, because he knows the beginning and the end. He's the Alpha and Omega. To me, when I look at that verse, I don't just accept that generations come and go, generations come and go. Yes, they do come and go. And the earth changes. Yes, the generations change. They do change. And that's why we say we're in the fourth generation, the fifth generation. The generations, they do change. And that means if the generations change, the earth does not remain the same. Guess what? Like now, there's a lot of technology that we have discovered with time. Does that mean that that technology wasn't there? It was there. So on the point of view of God, it's God and his world or his heaven or his wisdom that does not change. But for we, the human beings, we change. And when we research, when we go and find out things, we can come up with a conclusion like this Koheleth guy, this preacher guy, and say everything is meaningless. Alternatively, we can come with some conclusion and say, oh, I found this and I found that. And that's why scientists are stuck in their rediscoveries. And those people who search for evidence for everything, they're stuck in that because they come up with their own conclusions and they decide that's the conclusion that they've come up with, and it's their truth, like I had said earlier on. So to me, the generations may come and go, but the earth doesn't remain the same. It changes, and one day I'm told it will end. So does that mean it will remain the same? No, it won't remain the same. It won't remain the same. Those scientists who have done research, they will tell you of the different ages of the ice age, the Stone Age. I don't know what other ages that are there. I haven't gone to dig deep into that because I also don't want to be overwhelmed by those topics. But I know there have been changes on the earth, and there will be a change one time completely when everything is wiped away. There will be according to the way the word of God tells me. Anyway, let's go to verse 5. It says, the sun rises and the sun sets, then hurries around to rise again. By the way, it's not the sun that is rising to rise again, or to set again. For those who know a bit of science, they say it's the world that spins and rotates around the sun. So the sun is in the same place, just like God. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. The sun, it may be moving because it's one of the things in the galaxies that we may not quite understand. Maybe it moves, I don't know. But one of the things I know from the point of view of mankind and from the point of view of my position on the earth, the sun stays where it is, but the earth spins. The earth rotates and revolves. Yeah, it revolves around its axis, and at the same time it rotates around the arc, whichever arc it's given to go around the sun. So when we see the rising and the setting of the sun, it's the earth that is moving. It's not the sun that is moving. So the sun doesn't hurry to rise again. The sun is there waiting for us to go round and round and round in our minds, in the earth, and the way it goes. And then he says in verse 6, the wind blows south and then turns north. Around and around it goes, blowing in circles. I don't know. He had said everything is meaningless. But I'm told scientifically that it's the winds that help the seasons to change and also the rain to come and all that. So when the wind is blowing, it's not meaningless. Even the sun, when it is there shining on us, or rather when the earth is rotating around the sun. We have plantations, we have vegetations. That's how we have food, because of photosynthesis. So the sun has a purpose and the winds have a purpose, because the winds bring the rains, okay? And I won't go into the depth of that. All I'm trying to say, the very statement he had made in verses 1 and 2, that everything is meaningless, everything is not meaningless. You are not meaningless. The wind is not meaningless. The sun is not meaningless. This social media is not meaningless. This conversation Esther is having with you is not meaningless. It's not meaningless. If you let yourself go to that meaningless point of view, right? If you go to that that point where you say everything is pointless, your well-being will be affected. You won't find a purpose of your life because you will give up. And I don't want you to give up. I want you to be able to think with Esther and be able to critique, look around. Don't overthink. Remember, I said don't overthink. Don't over self-esteem yourself thinking you know all the answers. No. But you can have the confidence, sufficient self-esteem, balanced self-esteem, balanced confidence to be able to accept the things that you can accept as truth, that truth that sets you free, the things that you can be able to change and the things that you're not able to change. Remember, in that topic we had talked about the things that you can be able to control and the things that you're not able to control. So we cannot control everything and we cannot give all the answers for everything. We are not able to. I am only looking at a fraction of something that I have read in the Bible, and I don't want to conclude with the wisest guy that ever lived, because he's not God. This was based on mankind and the conclusion from a mankind point of view. So he says the sun, then he talks about the wind. Each one of them we have concluded in our own conclusion that they serve a purpose. Okay, today in the weather forecast, it has been drought in the UK in some parts. They've said so on the channels. But as I was watching the weather forecast, I could see the way the winds are flowing. They've been telling us now it's bringing a breeze. It's also bringing some showers, and the rains are on the way. The temperatures have changed. That's a purpose, because I was so uncomfortable. Many people were uncomfortable because of how high the temperatures were. So we are going to have a purpose served in cooling the weather. And when the weather is a bit cooler, we will be more comfortable. Okay. Verse 7, it says, rivers run into the sea, but the sea is never full. Then the water runs again to the rivers, and the flows out again to the sea. Now, this flow, again, the cycles of flow, do you think they're just meaningless? Why the water flows into the sea and the other way around? Again, I was taught a bit of the way the rains are formed and the way the grounds are watered. Yes, I read a bit of that. And in the process of us receiving rain, in the process of this water going into those cycles, we grow plants, or rather plants grow, right? The seeds, the grounds are watered, and therefore we have food, the wildlife have food, and we have firewood, we have all the things that we need for this life on the basis of the movement of water. If we didn't have water in this life, how would life be like? Again, we go back on the spiritual aspect of life. Yeah, we are told Jesus is the water of life. So we have the physical water and we see what it does. When this preacher looked at it, he said, this process of cycles and cycles are meaningless, but we already know. The little science we know they are meaningful. But in the spiritual sense, we also need the water that is the water of life. And as the water of life comes into our lives, the thirsts are quenched. The inner thirst that we have, those inner hungers that we have are quenched, and then we are able to be healed from the inside out because we have a faith in a power that is beyond us. So we are able to have a purpose in life because we are listening to that voice that is the voice that is above our own voice, to the voice that is God's, right? So when we rise above the God that is Esther, we go to the God that is God with a capital G, to the power that is above our own understanding, to the creator that is more creative than the little creativity that we have, to the one that set everything in motion. Then we are able to see some meaning in life. We are able to see some meaning. He is the one who created the science that we know, because we don't cause the winds to blow the way they blow. Yes, you will tell me it's the pressure changes here and there, but what causes those pressure changes? What put the earth in its position? Who put you where you are at the moment? Yes, you were born, but by the time that sperm fertilized, that's over. Why did that process happen and it didn't happen to the other cells that were in that situation? Why you? Why me? Why the world the way it is? Why is it that we don't live in Mars or Venus or whatever the other planets, but we live on this planet that is called Earth, that is supposed to support life? So life is one of the purposes, to live this life, to be alive in this life. And as we are alive in this life, see, the oxygen that we have, the breath that we have is not our own. We don't put it there. We have tried to sustain people in this life by giving them oxygen, but when their time comes, that breath of life that was breathed in them just leaves and it goes. There's nothing we can do about it. Even if we scream at God, even if we shout at God, even if we do whatever we want to do, when the time comes for you to be born, you are born. When it comes for you to die, you die. And you will see later on, this guy says there's a time for everything. Why did he say that there is a time for everything if it doesn't have any meaning? There is a time for everything. So that particular thing that happens that particular time, it serves that particular purpose. For some reason, it serves that particular purpose. Okay, verse 8. Everything is worrisome or wearisome beyond description. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are not content. Why? It's because of the basis where we set our foundation in. If we set our foundations on the physical things of this life, right, everything would be so wearisome. I mean, tiring. You will be doing things and they will just be for nothing. You feel like you're tired. You've worked so hard, but it's not paying anything. And then if you keep on looking at things, whatever we see, we are never satisfied. But like now, I know most of us are becoming addicted to, for example, social media, Facebook, those clips, yeah, TikTok, whether it's reels and all that. Our eyes want to see. Yes, if we look at them from a perspective of the human eye, we want to see more. Yes, our eyes may not be satisfied. But if we decide to cut them short, because we have another vision, a vision that God has given us, and stop being fed by all these things that are feeding our minds that are not useful, but we decide to be fed from a point of where we are told you can be content, you can have contentment. So when I was talking about this philosophy class I attended, the one for joy, one of the words that came, not joy, happiness. Joy and happiness are two different things. So when we were talking about happiness, one of the words that came out was contentment. You are happy when you're contented. You can decide, I'm going to shut my eyes against all these things I'm seeing. I'm going to close my ears against all these things that I'm hearing. And you become contented. And you say enough is enough. People do say enough is enough. You can say enough is enough to the troubles that are troubling you. And then you see another light. You see the perspective of God. You see that things can be looked at from a meaningful point of view. And then your well-being starts to improve. So you can say it's enough. So that your eyes will have enough of whatever it is. So no matter how much you hear, yes, you can also say enough of this hearing that I'm hearing, enough of what I'm seeing, and be contented. Be contented. You can reach that point of contentment. Now, verse 9 says, history merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. Do you believe that for real? Yes, history may seem to repeat itself, but my history will not be your history. My mother's history is not my history, it's her history, because she lived as an individual. My grandmother's history is her history. She lived in the colonial times and all that. So we all have a different history. And it may seem as if history is repeating itself. Not really, because it's not repeating itself exactly the way it was. The things they had to contend with, the things they had to face, they're totally different from what I'm facing today. Look, I can be able to talk to you to the digital world, right? Because we have been able to harness the internet, the what do you call it? The powers in the air. We have been able to harness those so that we can be able to communicate with you. But that doesn't mean that that power wasn't there. The internet, or the power that is within the way we transmit, has always been there. Okay, flight, for example, you know, people may say they have discovered planes and all that. The history of the way the planes were discovered, that's different, because it's the metallic flights, okay, the way these metal things, yeah, the physical planes that human beings have created can fly, but the birds were flying. So that's a history of God and his creation and how he made flight to be there, and we copied the way the birds fly, and we were able to create planes and all that, and many other things that human beings have discovered. They have discovered, but they learn from nature, and God also gives them the visions that they can be able to create these things and be able to move. Anyway, what I'm trying to say, history doesn't necessarily repeat itself. Even if it seems to be repeating itself, it's not exactly the way it was, because we live in different times. We live in different, like I said earlier on, this very preacher talks about time, a time for everything. So time is one of the determinants of the way things change on this side of the sun, in this side of the earth. Time does dictate a lot of things, but one day when we go to eternity, then time will not count. One day will be like 1,000 years. 1,000 years will be like one day. It won't matter. So time and space and all these other things will not matter when we cross over to the spiritual realm. And that's why sometimes you and I can be able to sit down and think beyond where we are. My mind can go straight away in Kenya, and I start imagining things that are happening in Kenya. It can go to China. I've never been to China, but I can send my mind. Can you imagine now when we go where our creator is, and he will be able to make that mind to be limitless? It can go wherever, just like he's omnipresent, he's omnipotent, yes, all powerful God. He will be able to help us now to live in the spiritual realm, where we will not be limited by these physical bodies. My physical body is limited right now. It can only be here where I am this particular moment, but I know the Spirit of God can take us in different places. Even my own little dreams normally take me to different places. How about the Spirit of God that helps us to go even further than we can ever fathom? So history doesn't necessarily repeat itself. It's different. Yeah, and nothing under the sun, it's okay. He says it's not truly new. It's new because this day has never existed on this side of the earth. It's never existed. So it's new. Okay, what I'm saying may not be new because I'm reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. But can you tell me that this day has existed before? It hasn't. Similar days like this have existed, but this particular day has not existed. So it's a new day. Like I normally say, it's a new leaf with the promises of God in there. So for you is to feel the purpose for today. Be able to fill in the gaps. I'm doing my part today. I believe you too are doing your part today as well. Let me just recognize those who are with us before I continue. I'm getting excited. This is a very interesting topic for me. Very interesting topic. So I am finding it to be really inspiring, and also hopefully you are also finding it to be inspiring. There is meaning. There is a meaning in this particular life. Sometimes my Facebook is playing up on my phone, but I will use the computer on this side. So no matter how much material things humans get, we will never be satisfied, making all vanity of vanity, just like many waters the oceans get from the rivers. Yes, the only way we can get satisfied is by stopping and telling us enough is enough, and asking God to give us the limitation, having a balance in this life. So we can close over to say, like, okay, I have a home that is sufficient for me. I don't need 10 homes. Okay, I have a car that's sufficient because I can only use one car at a time. Or I have a meal that's sufficient for me because if I eat 2 meals, then I'm going to be overweight and I'll be looking for ways on how to minimize that. Okay, I have this. So we can say enough is enough. But from a physical point of view, our eyes want to see more. Our ears want to see more. We want to accumulate more. And of course, that's where the vanity comes in, because on this side of the earth, we will never have enough. We cannot have enough until we choose where our limits can be put into limitations through believing in the one that created us. So verse 10, they say, sometimes people say here is something new, but actually it's old. Nothing is ever truly new. We don't remember what happened in the past, and future generations, no one will remember what we are now doing. The generation may not remember. I don't think so, because we do use, for example, the Bible, which was written in the olden times. Our forefathers tell us stories and we exist by those stories. We kind of trust what they tell us. So things can be, remembered. The generations can be remembered. Whatever happened in the past can be remembered. So if nothing will be remembered, then you can decide to be as evil as you want, because nothing will be remembered. You can decide to do nothing because nothing will be remembered. But if you choose to do nothing, for example, if you're a mother, if you decide not to cook for your children today, what will happen? If you decide not to do farming today, you farmer, what will happen at the end of the year? Will you have a harvest? If you decide not to go to work today, what will happen? How will you remember yesterday? You will remember that I didn't go to work yesterday. Now I don't have an earning today. Yeah. If you quit your job because it's vanity, so how will you be remembered? You will have a little history for that period of time that you'll be remembered. And of course, it will have impact on your generation and generation. It will impact on the generation and generation. And you may think that's not the truth, but it's true. Okay. And we do remember things that happened in the past, because like I was saying, in unforgiveness, sometimes it's when we hold on to those things that we have done in the past and we don't want to let go. Now, I'm looking at how many verses are remaining. There are quite a number. I think I will stop there, and we can be able to continue tomorrow from verse 12. The teacher speaks of futility of wisdom. So we'll be looking at, is wisdom useless? Do we need to chase after wisdom? Do we need to be knowledgeable? Do we need to... Yes, he was the wisest guy, but look at this. He said, wisdom is meaningless. It's futility. That's what he said. So I don't quite understand sometimes the confusion that this guy had. It looks like he reached a point of crisis. And sometimes we reach a point of crisis, you and I. We do reach those points of crisis. And that's where I don't want you to reach that point of crisis where your well-being is affected. I want you to be able to think about your purpose. I want you to go to the kitchen of our lives, the heart and mind, and connect those to the purpose giver, that is God. Connect those. You know, the person who designed a wooden spoon, the person who designed a saucepan, the person who designed the refrigerator, the person who designed any gadget that we are using, they knew that gadget had a purpose. And therefore, for you and me, so that we are not kind of overwhelmed by this life, we need to go back to the designer, to the creator, and be able to focus on him and ask him, why did you create me? What is my purpose? What is my purpose? And one of the purposes that I know, and it's the song, I'm going to conclude the program today, unless you have a question. Yes, one of the purposes I know, I say the chief purpose is to worship God. And the way we worship God is by loving God with all our heart, soul, mind, and everything we are, showing that we honor the life he's given us, showing that we honor him for giving us this life. And at the same time, to love one another. So I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't care. I do care. So we do that by loving one another, giving each other wise words, encouraging one another in this life, and moving on. So before I play this song, please, if you have any comments, you have any questions, we are critiquing the book of Ecclesiastes, but it's all to do with the well-being. I want us to have a sound mind, and I want us to have a heart that is flowing with joy. And if you do not know the purpose of your life, it can be kasheshe, it can be problematic, it can give you heartaches, it can give you headaches. But if we know the creator of it all, then we are able to connect with that creator and be able to move on with that creator. So it's been a wonderful time. Good morning, Mike. You have joining. Yeah, and I'm just about to conclude. But one of the things I'm going to say this morning, this is also another purpose that God has called us for. Here we go. And it is to do with love. Here we go.
Kana dire wendo hana taruduku kana gegerere gabaga ya gudu hana taruduku kana gegerere gabaga ya gudu wendo ni gai wendo otare wendo no vera tu wendo ni gai wendo otare wendo no vera tu. Itale wenda ni dire fatona nini Itale wenda ni dire fatona nini Wendo de gai wendo Otale wendo no vera tu Wendo de gai wendo Otale wendo no vera tu. Kwa usino na dire wenda ni dire odoige unanago wenda ni nyokira gereria ni otugana wenda ni dore weiru mwegatho ona kana mweteo wenda ni dore weiru mwegatho ona kana mweteo. Wenda ni dogadira, morathi magadira, diomi negadira, ona oge odire, no wenda ni dogadira, wenda ni dogadira, morathi magadira, diomi negadira, ona oge odire, no wenda ni dogadira, wenda ni gai wendo, otari wendo, no wenda tu, wenda ni gai wendo, otari wendo, no wenda tu.
Good morning, Kenya Diaspora Media. Good morning. Have a wonderful day. Yeah, this was Kenya Diaspora Media, Spices of Life, being brought to you by Esther from Leicester. And like I've said many times, it's the spices of life, but I'm looking at the well-being this season. And when I'm looking at the well-being, I'm starting from the beginning. I have a framework that I normally use apart from that spices of life. It's about rediscovering our purposes. And once you've discovered your purpose or rediscovered your purpose, you can be able to serve that more effectively. Like me, I believe I'm serving my purpose. Do you know what your purpose in life is about? Or what it is? And if you do not know and you want to be supported, occasionally I do talk to people and encourage people. So karibu sana, leave your comments here below and then I'll get back to you. Asante sana. May God bless you. Have a wonderful, loving day. God bless you. And from me, from Leicester, I'm saying kwaheri ya kuonana. Asante sana. Karibuni sana. So let's just go back to where we had started about Dokareke Diganero. Never let me forget where I've come from, Lord, so that life can become more joyous and more joyous and more joyous. Asanteni sana. Karibu sana. Until another day, ni kesho tuonane hapa. Let's see each other here at the same point. Thank you so much. This is our own CEO, Kenya Diaspora Media, Jeremy Damaris. Yes, Dokareke Diganero, bye-bye.
Unyedete nagwo wenda mwigi utari oshuke na wendo mukinyaniru utumaga ndiriririe gwikaraga ndinyihitie guguthingata makiria wendo waku ni uhotaga Dokareke ngariganiro niwe goya wananyonia ndi muroyo wariwa Dokareke ngariganiro niwe goya wananyonia ndi muroyo wariwa amone mathirete aria ginao makoja indi wendo waku ngayo turaga umenyereire niguo ndikananiro ni migwi miuru ya ngoma Dokareke ngariganiro nderoya wananyonia indi muroyo Dokareke ngariganiro nderoya wananyonia indi muroyo wariwa ndamenya kuria nyumite gutiro ngehotire kuruta ngoro eno yakwa hatakaine ya mathina tiga niwe waingiriire Dokareke ngariganiro niwe goya wananyonia indi muroyo Dokareke ngariganiro niwe goya wananyonia indi muroyo wariwa wega waku ujigane utore udathimite ndathimira nyumba yakwa wira wa moko makwa maundu makwa mothe Dokareke ngaconoka Dokareke ngariganiro